All right, we're going to get started. Thank you very much. Today is August 9th. My name is Telmo Silva. I'm the CTO and CEO of ClicData, an avid user of ClicData, if you will, as well. And this webinar is really focused around a lot of the geo charting that we do, the maps and the region maps. It's going to be a short webinar. It is mostly to give you a little bit of insight how we we're doing those mappings or those visualizations related to geography and cartography, as well as how we do some of more of the advanced features in terms of geocoding, which is basically just mapping addresses to locations on a map. As always, we always do a small, quick introduction for those of you who are the first-time viewers of these webinars. We do record these webinars, and they are available on YouTube a few hours later, and as well on our website. And again, if you do have any ideas or suggestions for future webinars, please do send them directly to me, and I will queue them up either for myself or for some other of the members of the team, such as Srineve, that will also conduct some of these webinars in the future. So hopefully everyone can hear me and see this slide. If not, you also have a chat window available to you where you can put in your comments and questions for response at the end of this webinar. So without further ado, a little bit about ClicData. We are a fully BI platform, cloud-based platform. We believe that we started ClicData on the belief that basically buying all these servers and tools, ETL tools, visualization tools, linking all that stuff together, it was just too painful. And we wanted to solve that by building everything into one solution called ClicData, where we are basically allowing you, the client, to connect data from a variety of data sources, as many as we can, in an easy way, that we allow you to manage that data and then simply push it out into visualizations and publish to the people that really need to get to that data. It's really converting raw data into information. We started with a freemium plan. We have over 17,000 free and paying customers. The statistics on this slide are actually a little bit outdated. We publish a lot more than 45,000 dashboards, and we are used in over 47 countries. Again, just going through the 4 steps: the connection, the combination and merging of the data, the creation of the dashboards, and the collaboration. These are our 4 key steps, the cornerstones of ClicData. And we try to make that first step in building a data warehouse. So what is a data warehouse? Is really bringing all your key relevant data source from all these different systems, whether they're on people's laptops, all the way up in the cloud, into one spot. And that avoids a lot of the different interfaces and connectivities that you have, problems that you usually typically have when implementing a data warehouse. We build all these connectors so that it saves you time. Once you have the data in your data warehouse, building a dashboard then becomes quite an easy step. So in our terminology, a dashboard is typically a specified area, a page, a screen, where you have key vital information about your business, about your process, about your department, about whatever you're trying to measure that is critical for your day-to-day running of your business. It needs to bring attention to specific key metrics, key performance metrics, if you will, and they must be visualized as well correctly, or as correctly as possible. So where do we store all this data? If you choose to use ClicData, we are partners with Microsoft Azure, and we store this data in a variety of data centers to avoid things like the GDPR, the European General Data Protection Regulation, HIPAA compliance, the Canadian compliance, and Australia, and so forth. Every single region and country has specific laws as to and protection of their citizens' privacy or right to privacy, and we circumvent that, and we're unique in this data center of your choice based on the list of data centers that we have in partnership with Microsoft. And of course, in terms of security, because of this partnership and because of our own strength in data protection, it is our livelihood. We make sure that it is highly secure, and we try to abide by as many of the regulations and safety protocols that we can, including certificates such as ISO and SOC. Just again to sum it up, the advantages versus other visualization tools, or BI tools as they are called sometimes, is really our ability to connect, store, visualize, publish everything, and automate all that all in one system. That you can upgrade your backend systems, and your dashboards will still work. You don't have to change that. You can replace the data source systems, and the dashboards will continue to work. That you can integrate the dashboards you built with ClicData into your own portal or applications. We are very focused on multilingual, regional, not only in terms of the data safekeeping, but also in terms of cultural settings, specifically for certain countries like Belgium and Canada, Switzerland, which have multiple languages and multiple systems, as well as in the US and certain European countries which have potentially non-official languages that they need to support. And of course, we are very accessibly priced. It is due to the architecture and the way we've built ClicData that we are able to provide a better pricing for our customers. It is not that we're just trying to basically undercut the other ones. It's just that our system is very, very scalable, not requiring us to add additional costs and pass the savings over to our customers. So now we get into the topic at heart for this specific webinar, with the quick introduction to ClicData out of the way. I would like to talk today about two widgets that we have, which sometimes are a little bit underrated, but I believe they can provide some very excellent visualization. And one way that we facilitate how you can use geomapping or mapping of data points, which is also very unique to our offering. At the end of this, we'll also cover a few of the features that that are coming up or have been recently released in ClicData that I just want people to be aware. It may be of interest for some of you. So getting right in, the first widget that I'd like to talk to is about the region map. Now, the region map is ideal for any type of comparisons across countries, states, provinces, anything that is typically a surface area. Our widget comes with approximately 600 or 800, somewhere around 800 maps of countries, world, regions, continents. Within a country, we sometimes go down to the province, state, or district level. We have custom maps for electoral maps, for elections. So we have quite a wide variety of maps available in the widget. And we have a lot of features in terms of what the widget itself can do. We can add tooltips and labels and legends, and I'm going to show a quick example of that. And of course, using the colors as a major differentiation between this region over another. One thing that is interesting in this widget is the fact that we are not abided by the geography. So if I wanted to draw, for example, a warehouse, like in terms of the floor map, and say, okay, which areas of the stock are low, which areas of the stock are high, etc. I could. These maps are highly customizable. To date, we don't have the ability for our customers to upload custom maps. That's coming up very soon. But if you give us a very custom map that you'd like to use in your dashboard, we would be able to upload these custom maps for you, and you would be able to use them. So this would be wonderful if you have, things such as hotels or some kind of a building layout, and you're trying to monitor some costs across the building, or just anything that you can think of that in a diagram you can represent. We can do that for you. So let's just get into this widget and see what we can do with it. I'm just going to log into my account here. And what I've done just prior to this webinar, I just dragged these widgets onto my dashboard. There is one that I've done some geocoding before, and I'll explain a little bit about that when we get into this. But the ones we're talking about are these top two here that you see the world map in continents. Now, I'm just going to open the properties. And again, you can open the properties in a variety of ways by double-clicking on the border, by clicking the Properties button at the bottom, or just hitting F2. You can access the properties of any widget. And I'm going to click here on the properties again on the main tab here, where we have the map facility here, where all the maps that I've told you about, somewhere between around 800 maps, are all here. So if you want to, for example, see a map of London by boroughs, this is it. If you want to, see a map of countries, somewhere here, this is a weird map. They're all here. If you want to go by country regions, again, Brazil municipalities, Canada provinces. So for example, this is Alberta with the different municipalities outlined, Netherlands, Norway, etc. So we have a lot of maps, and needless to say, obviously the top one would be, for example, the world map, with the 280 or 300 thereabouts that we have. So this is actually the one I'm going to pick to start off. I'm going to pick some data that I have, which is by country population in this case. All right. So just looking at the data very quickly, we have country name, we have a country code, a 3-letter country code, and then some columns with population, latitude, and longitude. Now, it's interesting that this data set has latitude and longitude, but we are not going to use the latitude and longitude to do the mapping. This is not a latitude and longitude. This is a region map. It recognizes regions by name or by codes. So if I drag the country name over here, and I'm just going to pick a value, the population in 2013, you will see that automatically it mapped some of the data that I have into the different countries. But you notice here, for example, the USA, it's still in gray and there's no tool over it. There was a problem in mapping this. In fact, there was more than one problem. There was quite a few countries that it did not match. Now, I've downloaded this data from an open data data source, and the way they name things, for example, Venezuela, they've added, for example, a comma RB. I'm not quite sure what RB is, but I'm surprised that the United States is not there. So I'm going to start typing United States here to see what we have. And the way we store it, it's United States of America and the country code US. So it's natural that it did not match it because they just put United States, which, although it's the common form of this country, it does not match the data. So I'm just going to tell it, you know what, this is it. Just learn and don't bother me. And now I see the data over here. It's mapped to my widget. So this could happen with a lot of data that you have in your system that may not necessarily match the data of a map. Maybe it's misspelled, or maybe it's missing a couple things, or maybe there's an acronym of some sort that will not match it. But you can teach ClicData that next time it will map it accordingly. So this is exactly what we've done. Now, just quickly going over some of the other features other than the data field features, we're looking at the formatting, obviously titles and things like that. One of the things is the default region color, how to show it, the display zoom controls if you want to zoom in or panning, that's obviously available. The different colors, you've noticed here that it just pick those colors here, but again, we can change it, and again, we can change it based on different scales, contiguous or discrete numbers. So this could be interesting, for example, to set up a second level where this could be, for example, orange at 100, and this could be 50. So let me just put the new scale up here, and now we have a 3-level gradient scale. We could also do a discrete in terms of of mapping. Okay. Labels, whether we show the labels, whether we show the legend, and tooltips, of course, always tooltips, whether we want to display the tooltip or not. So lots of options on this chart, and again, interactions as well, also available as with all other widgets. Okay, so this is basically the region name. Now, notice that if you put another code in there, potentially if I dragged another column, the country code. In this case, if you remember, it's a 3-letter code. It did not match most of them. It has difficulties matching. And this is because, again, we may have not put in all the different codes. If you're trying to find out, okay, what maps do you actually have that match it, you can click this download map reference. And what it'll do is you're going to get an Excel spreadsheet with how we store the data and the names, and that way you can either fix data using the transformation or views, or you can fix your system to have the right codes to match this, so you don't have to change it every time you map a new one. Okay, so that's your map reference. Every map has their own reference, and some codes are just made up by us because, for example, if you're talking about some electoral districts, you may just name them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So again, they may not mean anything, but again, you can use this map reference to map your data. Okay. So hopefully that was a good quick overview of the region map. There's lots of examples on our website as well, and again, the beauty of this is that it is very cool to immediately look at a map and see a darker or a brighter color, and just click on it and filter a table or drill down to another dashboard using that. Okay. We're moving on to a bit the location map. Now, the location map is, well, everybody will see it because it says right there, it's Google. This is the Google map, and we will continue to use the Google map for a while longer. We're thinking of also adding the Bing map, and we'll tell you the reasons a little bit later. It's more related to geocoding rather than the Google map. They're both great maps. This one is working quite nicely for us. It is an ideal map to pinpoint specific locations. Not great for comparisons, but really about tracking density or specific locations, for example, assets and things like that. The going into the Google map right now on right here. So this is a good Google map. When you start up, it basically just defaults some points, and you'll notice that it's not bound to anything. There's not a lot of options here. So what I'm going to do first is just look at some data that I have. Again, just some specific earthquake data. And if I look at this data, hopefully it'll come up here. All right. So there's basically, dates of earthquakes with latitude and longitude and the magnitude and a few other data sets. So if you are lucky enough that your data set has the latitude and the longitude, then you can just drag those in, and then, for example, the magnitude of the earthquake. Now notice here that when I dragged in lat and long, it defaulted latitude, and this one also defaulted to longitude, and I'm just going to choose over to longitude. And as soon as I do that, you notice that the map has immediately mapped those points, and I can zoom in and see which areas where the earthquakes are located. It is clear that sitting around anywhere around this side, from California up to Alaska and Japan and Indonesia, is not a good area. It's pretty safe in Europe and in Africa here. So, as I said, density checking is quite useful if you're tracking assets within a city, and again, remember that you can zoom down to a city level with some of these and really pinpoint where where exactly this latitude and longitude is. But the truth of the matter is that unfortunately, not all data sets have latitude and longitude. It would be great if they did, but most of business data sets available to us do not have latitude and longitude. So we have to talk about something else. How do we convert a street address into a point that I can see here? If I pick a different data source here, and I pick something with some addresses, again, I'm just going to pick, for example, this one here, Canadian addresses. And I look at this data, and these are just street addresses. In fact, this is not a full address. This is a street name, and this is a city, and this is a country, and this is the postal code, the province or state, what have you. So this is typically how addresses are stored in database systems. So I'm going to take a little bit detour back into the presentation to talk about geocoding. And what is geocoding, first of all? Now, geocoding is just a fancy word, a technical word, if you will, for mapping addresses to a map. Now, there's quite a few people that do this. Obviously, everybody knows Google Maps. Apple has their maps, Bing Maps as well, and a few others. There's military grade geocoding ones. There's transportation geocoding facilities. We currently use Google as well. And what we do is, when you have a data source and you choose to bind the data source to your map, we send your data, your address data only, to Google to give us the latitude and longitude, and we store it in a table for you, so you don't have to do this all the time. Now, this does cost money and time, so some of these addresses may take a few seconds to start appearing on the map. But once we have them, it is quite fast, because now we have the data locally for you to use on your map. This is, again, very, very handy if you have street addresses for customers or for stores or for offices, anything like that. This is great. Basically, we send the data out. We check first to see if you have asked for it before. If not, we go out and ask Google to give us the new pinpoint location, and if we have it, we'll just return it immediately. So let's take a quick look. Here is the final example of something that I've mapped with the Canadian addresses here, where I drag the column country, and you'll notice that here, in addition to latitude and longitude, I have a few different parameters of what a street or address could look like. Now, the first thing that a lot of people get confused, myself included, is what's the difference between an address and a street state. What the address usually is incorrectly in some databases, as it is incorrectly here. It's actually the street number and name, not the address. The full address is the combination of the street number and name combined with the city, the postal code, and the country and the state or province. But most databases, specifically very old ones, still refer to the street as the address. So in this case, I've actually mapped the address, but set it as I can also set it as the street, and say this is the street name, not necessarily the address level. Okay. The second thing that I can do is obviously things such as, and this is again potentially something that I need to pay more attention to, is state. What we actually mean by state is more like a region, province, district, anything that in your country. Now, state is typically the next level below country for many countries. That is not always true, as the name may change, but it basically means province or region or the next level. Anything. The more information you give to Google, the better it will do its geocoding, right? If you just send city out, and I'm just going to remove this guy here, and knowing that this is Canadian, start seeing data points in the middle of Norway or somewhere there, or in the middle of the ocean. in some island, then we kind of suspect, okay, what's going on here? And it is possible that we have cities that exist in multiple countries. So without additional information, Google is doing the best it can to say, okay, well, this is a city I found. I'm not sure if it's in the country you want. So you typically have to add, more information so that it can now zone in the area of interest here. So now, okay, it's a city in Canada. Okay, well then I can get you a better position of that. And you notice that it's kind of grabbing and pinpointing as they come in, more data points appear. Again, what we're doing is we're going to Google. If we don't have it locally for you to grab, we're actually going out to Google and getting this new latitude and longitude for you all the time. And this is why this is an option in some plans, and there's limits to it, and you can beg and go over your limits and get more geocoding limits added to your account. But it does cost time and money. Once it's cached, though, it's free for use until we need to recache it for you. Okay, so this is how we use the geocoding data, and how you don't have to change your data and kind of be limited in terms of what you can plot in your charts just because you don't have latitude and longitude. Okay. Now, hopefully, this has been a quick but hopefully interesting quick overview of the map and region widgets. More features will be added to both of those in the near future. Things such as little pie charts and bar charts on the region map, and a better performance. And like I said, we're also going to have multiple types of maps, including Bing Maps. So switching gears a little bit into the features that have been actually recently released, I just want to finish this off with some of the cool stuff that we've done over the last 2 weeks. As a reminder, we have a new version every 2 weeks, give or take, some rare exceptions. You can look at the new versions at help.clicdata.com, which I will actually quickly shift over to, just to give you a little bit of an insight. And the last section on the help will include all our previous releases, and you'll notice that plus or minus every 2 weeks we have something new. So we have all the release notes here, so feel free to consult them as you see fit. I'm just going to go through some of my recent favorite ones. Sometimes there's a lot of new features, sometimes there's just a few key ones. The one that I like the most these days is a new panel bar, specifically with the accordion extension. I believe it makes it a lot more organized and clear to find things. Also a lot more colorful. The previous one was a little bit dark and red on a hover, which was difficult on the eyes at times. So this is actually quite a nice depiction of all the widgets, and also we are preparing this to be theme sensitive, so that you would have different colors of icons here in the future. The second feature that we've added this last push has been the ability to have double sliders on our slider, so you can define ranges. In addition to horizontal and vertical orientation of the sliders, you can now actually define ranges of start and end sliders. You can use that on formulas and filters, whether it's dates or percentages or numbers. There's some further improvements as well coming down, where we can add ticks to the sliders. We will add more features around the ticks formatting in the future. On the dashboard editor, since we were talking about the new widget icons, we now have a lot of shortcut keys added, which make it a little bit faster for those of you that are more experts. For example, I discussed the F2 to access the widget properties, the tab to switch between the widgets, it toggles between all the widgets, the page up, page down brings up the visibility, not the visibility, but the whether it's in the front or in the back of other widgets. To quickly preview the dashboard, Alt-P, zoom in, zoom out, Alt plus minus, and of course the quick save, Control-S. As with other. Notice that sometimes it's alternate, sometimes it's control. We have to play nice with the browsers. We are fully browser compatible with Firefox and Chrome, so I was going to say Internet Explorer 11, and Microsoft Edge, among others, and for as well, Safari on the Mac. So these keys will change from, definitely if you're in the Mac, on the Mac side, it's the Apple key or the control key. But we have to play nice with all these browsers. So sometimes we need to use, Control S is really nice because S save, but we can't use Alt S because it's been taken by the browser, and unfortunately we cannot use it. So we try to adopt as much as we can on the Alt keys and obviously the F keys. Finally, on the data connection side, apart from the usual performance improvements that we attempt to make every single sprint to make it easier, Pipedrive, we can now do custom fields in addition to the smart views. And the YouTube analytics, we've converted that to smart views a couple of versions back. So smart views is really the way we're going to continue to progress through all our connectors, including YouTube, the new Google Analytics, and SurveyMonkey as well. So those are the last of the two that are still using the table view. The smart views are much nicer because you can get your data in one data set completely, as opposed to having to merge data sets or three sometimes. So these smart views are very, very interesting for us and for you as well. But we'll also, for some connectors such as Google Analytics, again, we will also have an advanced view to allow you to type a very custom smart views, if you will. So that is pretty much it for the webinar. I appreciate your time.